Are you thinking about using private lenders to fund your real estate deals, or maybe you currently have private lenders? Well, you need to make sure that you stay out of hot water with the SEC, and that's what I want to talk to you about. There's absolutely no way around it. You must know the SEC rules and regulations concerning real estate deals if you're going to deal with private lenders. And the SEC compliance knowledge is going to save you from stress, anxiety, and many sleepless nights worrying about the SEC. And I've seen folks that have lost money from being too afraid to pull the trigger on a profitable real estate deal due to being unsure whether or not you will be in SEC compliance. Let me ask you this. When do you think you should know about this information? Before the SEC comes around, or after you've messed up and gotten yourself into trouble? I think you know the right answer. Now, the good thing is the rules are very, very easy. But the hard thing is for real estate investors is figuring out what they are. You know, failure to do so could lead you to fines and jail time and even loss of your business. Here's the number one issue. I estimate that 95% of real estate investors are oblivious to the fundamental SEC requirements and rules, and yet many still plow ahead getting private lenders that could possibly cause themselves problems that they could have avoided easily if they would just known the rules. Issue number two is, I hate to say this, is that there's a plethora of new real estate trainers out there teaching folks about private lenders, and they're not all delivering accurate or enough SEC information. Some are totally oblivious to the SEC. In fact, their students call my office to ask questions. They've just not paid the dues, the trainers, and hired an SEC attorney to research the whole United States and Canada. In fact, I hate to say this too, is I've seen where they're stealing bits and pieces of my own material and presenting it as theirs. You see, I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice, so I needed to get answers to all the burning questions I had about the SEC and when it comes to private lending. And I didn't have the time or the inclination to go on a search party myself to dig this information out, and frankly, I wouldn't even know where to start. So I took the logical step and shelled out cash to hire an SEC attorney to do the research for me, and it wasn't just for my state of Ohio. I had to do the whole United States. Cha-ching for him. Yep, a few years later he told me I'd paid for his new home with that effort. But that's how dedicated I was, and it was worth every dime of it, because morally, it was the right thing for me to do for you. So that's why I hired an attorney to research every single state in the United States to dig up information on what is allowed by real estate investors when using private lenders to fund their deals. Now I'd like to share with you just some of what my attorney learned, as well as the insights I've gained in dealing with the SEC over the years of my real estate career. Here's just a handful of items. One is, by researching the whole United States, we found the same 5 items are controlled in every state. Now, granted, within the state, they are modified from state to state, but it's the same 5 areas. And you see, every state has their own division of the SEC, and then there's also a federal SEC that's set up. So in 13 states we found, you got to send them in a little form or a memo before you can get your first private lender. So if you're in one of those states, you don't want to violate your state's rule. You need to know if that's required within your state. And typically there's a small fee, $50 or $100 or something. Crossing state lines, well, when you cross a state line, then you get the division of SEC in each state, plus you get the federal SEC. Advertising, now you would think if you're going to sell a chair, a computer, or a car, you know, the first thing you do is you go out and advertise. Well, ironically with this, the SEC doesn't allow you to do that initially. If you want to advertise, you have to ask for permission, or what they call register with your state's SEC. So you aren't allowed to jump off this training and start to advertise, because it's a no-no. You have to be in compliance with the SEC. Thresholds, we found out that there are various thresholds in every state on number of lenders and the dollars that you can borrow. There are disclosures out there that is required in every state. Now, it's not tough. You just need to have a meeting of the minds with your private lender and hand them what your program is all about. We've also learned how you could raise unlimited funds, and the fact that you're in an exempt category when you start out, which means that you can borrow money from people that you got a prior relationship with, or what I call family, friends, and associates. And that's just the top of the iceberg of what my attorney learned. You see, when it comes to long-term real estate investing success with private lenders, few things are more important than understanding the rules and the regulations. So why go all through this worry and stress yourself about the rules and regulations? Well, you don't have to, because I'm here to help you. And my staff members saw that I needed to give my students another option besides a large, fat, comprehensive home study system that I created. I created a mammoth home study system after my attorney did all the research throughout the United States. And they wanted me to do something in addition. So we wanted to find another way to get this valuable training to more people's hands in a very streamlined and affordable way. And my staff wanted me to suck the audios out of the home study system, offer them as a standalone product. But I didn't want to do it. Why? Because I never sell pieces of my whole systems. They're created as systems for folks. But they won. You know, and what they convinced me on was the benefits of audios is that you can listen to it anytime, anywhere, and we could get more of these into people's hands out there so they could stay safe and knowledgeable about the SEC. And you can listen to the audios while doing other things, commuting to work, waiting to pick up your children, from activities like soccer and things, working out in the gym, exercising at home, doing household chores, jogging, walking, driving, mowing. You get the idea. You know, so there's just so many more flexibility. So introducing what I pulled out of the mammoth home study system is what every real estate investor must know about the SEC. It's my attorney-created SEC audios. See, by researching every single state, my attorney was able to get a very unique view of the SEC rules. And these audios reflect that knowledge by taking the compliance requirements and presenting them in a very simple and usable format. The bottom line is when you get done with the audios, you'll know what you need to do to stay safe. So what's on the audios? Well, audio number 1 is new. I took the old audio, blew it away because there are 12 things I wanted to get right up front for every real estate investor that they must know to stay in compliance. Number 2 goes through disclosure. Number 3 continues with disclosure and a thing called the SCORE form. We found out that 45 states require a SCORE form. SCORE is Small Company Offering Registration, SCOR, SCORE form. And some states you can use a disclosure. Some states you can use a disclosure or a SCORE, and other states you can just use the SCORE. Now my disclosure statement is 9 pages long. The SCORE is a lot bigger than that, and a lot more questions and answers. So we spend more time on it. Audio number 4 goes into the SCORE some more. Number 5 is the business entities that he recommends. My attorney teaches business entities at a local college that he's at, and we thought it was important to include that. And number 6 is my piece of it that I wanted him to add on what happens when things go bad. And I thought that was important to face reality, that it's very important to be in compliance. And you see, I'm in your corner. I want you to be in compliance. And my job is to deliver the information to you so that you can be in compliance. And on this research, what we found, and him and I spent a lot of time together. We met at a location between both of us and spent a lot of time hammering out that there are actually 3 different levels in the SEC compliance rules, and there's 2 groups in every level. So like in the first level, well, in most states, you can run out and you can get private lenders tonight. In 13 states, you got to send in that memo or piece of paper. So that would be level 1, and you can see there that is for the easiest, simplest way to get private lenders, but there's 2 groups within that. And so we got a group 2 and a group 3, obviously. And then finally in 8, we dig down and get into the questions and answers that you might have rolling around in your head. We get them covered. These are the exact audios that are available in my $1,000 plus Real Estate Investor's Bible to the SEC, and with a new and improved number 1, which now goes into even more detail than for whatever real estate investors must know when it comes to the SEC. You just miss one of the 12 important items covered in one, and you can get yourself in hot water with the SEC. That's just audio 1. There's 7 more audios loaded with equally important information and advice. This audio series is just what you need to learn the essentials of dealing with the SEC without paying an attorney thousands of dollars. Now, I'm not saying avoid an attorney. In fact, I'm very pro-attorney, a pro-SEC. In fact, I've got a number of attorneys. And if you're going to need to register so you can advertise or pool, then you need to get an SEC attorney so you can do that. But there's many of you that are not going to register because you don't have to. You're in that group 1, and you want knowledge so that you can sleep at night, and so you'll know that you're doing it right. Now, if you already own my premium home study system or the Real Estate Investor Bible to the SEC, you probably already know that. You already own these audios. So this is for everybody else. Now just think about what you'd pay an attorney for 8 hours of delivering solid information on the SEC. Now this is just talking to you. This is not the research time, just 8 hours. You know, my attorney, he did all the research in every state in the United States, and then we went through and made the audios. Well, 8 hours at $425 an hour, that's $3,400. One of my attorneys is $425 an hour, so I use that. The research that went into gathering this information is staggering. The $3,400 is just delivering the information, like I said. And these attorney-created audios contain over 8 hours of valuable information and tips spread over the 8 recordings, such as here's what's covered. Who regulates securities? What are the SEC rules on advertising? What is the importance of a website disclaimer? Yeah, your website is advertising, so you have to follow the rules for advertising there. What sort of disclosure should you give your private lenders? Can you pay commissions? Well, there was a guy called Charles Ponzi many years ago, back in the 1920s, that paid commissions, and now most of us can't. There's 3 states that can. Is this a security? What type of attorney do you need? Exactly when does the SEC become involved in a real estate deal, and how did the 3 levels of the SEC compliance come about? I told you part of that before. And what exemptions can you use? Plus, advertising do's and don'ts, and when a stranger is no longer a stranger, because that's important for that level 1 that I talked about and for the advertising piece of it, and what constitutes fraud, and so much more. Remember, for you to get the information contained on the audios for just 1 state would cost you thousands of attorney fees. You know, that's why I decided to offer these for just a fraction of what I paid. So for $597, and if you want to save money, you can invest just $397 and get the 8 audios as an instant download. And I'm even going to make it better. Right now, for a limited time, you can save $100 if you put in the discount code AUDIOS, AUDIOS, when you get to the order form, and I'll knock another $100 off. But you need to move on this. This can go away anytime. You know, the sad truth, like I said, is that 95% of real estate investors don't know the important information contained about the SEC and being in compliance, or obviously what's on these audios. That means that each day, 95% of real estate investors that are using private lending are putting their livelihood, and in many cases their future well-being, on the line. Maybe you think, heck, I'll just go look up this information myself. Well, can you afford to waste all that time? You know, wouldn't it be better spent going out and making offers on deals instead of doing research online or in the library, and maybe end up with conflicting information once you're all done? Order now so you won't be worried later that you didn't get your hands on these and miss out on the discount. And don't put your career or future in ignorance of the law. You know, that's no excuse. You got a 7-day money-back guarantee. If they aren't for you, you get a prompt and courteous refund. There they are. Hit the order button now and order so that you can get your hands on these. Do the instant download. You can start today listening to the audios, getting into that number 1, and going through the 12 key questions that I had to ask my attorney to make sure I got this information to you, plus the other fabulous 7 audios with these. Get into this right now. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain. It's all about keeping you safe with the SEC.